Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode from the RICS Tech Partner Programme. I'm Andrew Knight. I work within the Standards Regulatory and Thought Leadership part of the RICS, and my role here is to look at the effect of data and tech right across the built and natural environment, and working particularly with firms on this RICS Tech Partner scheme to see how their solutions impact in a positive way the way we can actually improve the digitization of this huge, wide-ranging sector. I'm very glad today again to have Erik Schlooz from Kate Innovations with us. So Erik, do come on board.
Hi, Andrew.
Morning, Erik.
Thanks for having me.
Well, pleasure as ever. And for those of our viewers who perhaps have missed the first couple of episodes that will still be on our website to have a look at, do give us a bit of a backstory on the creation of Kate Innovations and the founders' backstory, experience, skills, just to give a bit of a picture of who Kate are, if you would.
Yeah, sure. Kate Innovations. We we started the company in 2016. So in August we will celebrate our 5-year anniversary. We founded it with two of my colleagues. And one used to be a valuer for over 12 years. Rutger Jansen, and together with also Roderick Gerritsma, he's more the technical guy. And we started Kate, and we have focused on creating valuation software for commercial real estate at first. And we do that now in 5 countries, active in 5 countries, in the Dutch market, Belgium, German, UK, and Russian market. And we acquired also a couple companies last year.
Mm-hmm.
This is also where we had an earlier episode of about this is the third one, of course. So we had the valuation software first of Kate. The second one we talked about Property Pass, about creating a building passport and sharing data in a safe way. And today we're going to talk about the company Legal Things that we acquired, and also how you start by creating, with having no data at all, let's say Word and Excel kind of documents process, to a data-driven process. So let's talk about that today.
Indeed, thanks, Erik. Well, I suppose that is the crux of the conversation today. That the built environment is not always in a good place in terms of the kind of data and documents we have. So often it's a Word document or a PDF or a scan of a piece of paper in an extreme example. So how do we manage that journey from essentially no kind of digital systems or data to having that proper digital system that supports all the various applications that we can lay on top of that? What does that journey look like?
Well, maybe let me share my screen here real quick, show you how we look at it. So here we go. Presenting. As I already told you, the third episode, and this time we're going to talk about the whole 100% digital process. And this is a process that we already can manage in the Netherlands, where you can see that the largest financiers have asked, instead of PDF documents, they're asking already for XBRL data documents. So in this case, we can already create, as you can see through this workflow, this is how we can create lease agreements in a digital way with digital signing, where the lease, the data from here directly goes into your Property Pass. And in this case, it's possible to send the lease information directly to your financer, or you can share it with the valuer, so that you can create the whole share the whole rent roll, for example, and it gets exactly into directly into the valuation software, where you can create a valuation, of course, and can send this also to the financer. But it's also possible to send the whole valuation to Property Pass.
Right.
So, and talking about how do you start, because this is of course always a big question. From we have it's fine that you can share, that you have a sharing platform, etc. But we are still working in Word and Excel. So how do we start? How do we manage that? And this is actually what we have done, and then we call this creating data. And that's actually the first step of to create a full digital workflow. And this is how I already told you that we have legal things. What we have is this is a full. There's a how you can create a lease agreement.
Mm.
Who can? It's also with the whole workflow process. So you can send it to the person who's going to rent the place, or you can have maybe you can send it to the owner for approval services, etc. And then all the data with the digital signing. When you have pushed the digital signing part, the data is sent directly into Kate or into the property pass of the owner. And in this case, then you have always real-time data available, so including the whole lease agreement.
Mm.
So you can imagine if you have a lot of real estate, you can just log in and you have every entity, every property, all structured data of the lease agreements are in there. So this, of course, a step you can take, but then again, you say, okay, that's fine to start from today, but how about the data that I have in PDF or Excel or whatsoever? And this is how we have we have built a PDF reader. So what we can do is, since for example, get all kind of lease agreements, but also maintenance agreements.
Mm.
It's possible we have like yeah, let's call it a PDF scanner, and it recognizes the most important information. And in this case, it sends also all those information directly to the other systems like Kate or Property Pass. So, for example, right now we see in the Netherlands that the largest financiers, they ask for about, let's say, 30 lease data fields.
Yeah.
Right now, we have an average of 27 of those PDF so reader that the data of 27 elements can be directly come from a PDF report into the system, and that's an average. And what you see,
Mm.
that's of course an artificial intelligence tool. So right now, it's getting better, and we are teaching it to get better. So, but if we already manage to have 27, that helps a lot. And then again, you see also a lot of companies, they have the whole rent roll, etc., already in an Excel system. And we have created all kind of upload functionalities. So we can upload the full Excel files. We can help you with that, and upload those directly into the system. So in this case, we can, in the most easy way that's possible, we can go from a no data workflow to a fully working data workflow. And this is actually how we can create the first step, because there's always a good question: how do we start? We know,
Mm.
for example, that there are great artificial intelligence tools, and you have a lot of data sharing and everything can. But then again, how do you start if your whole company is still based on Word and Excel?
Mm.
Well, in this case, we can have you can have a different start today, but also we can help you to get your full all available documents to a data file.
And what have been the most significant challenges before you go on to your next slide? I mean, what have been the biggest challenges about actually building those kind of pieces of machine learning? Because clearly, PDF documents can be quite verbose in terms of the narrative and the way phrases are used. And you say you've managed to get about 27 out of 30. Has it been quite painful in that way to actually train the programs to identify these key clauses?
Definitely, we have done already, let's say, thousands of lease agreements put through there. But I can tell you that the first 200 lease agreements we didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time to do so. And of course, what we see here in the Netherlands, that you have like a very, let's say, basic lease agreement that a lot of companies are using. And after that, you can it takes a lot of time to bring the machine learning up to speed. But that's something we already have been doing. And of course, if you have a total different document that's different than any other,
Yeah.
um, yeah, this is you have to train it again, of course. But we also see that most companies, if we say, okay, but are you willing to go to a more standardized lease agreement or whatsoever? People are open to it. If it helps creating the process, it works. But then again, you have also the possibility to say, okay, no, I really want to keep up with my own lease agreements, etc. Well, fine. Then we can put them into legal things. So we can create your full own report, and then you already have a digital program. The only thing is then that's great for, let's say, from today on. But if you want to yeah, make your all the information that you have right now. If I go to an owner right now, most of the time I get a lot of PDF reports, and you have like on your computer you have all those different kind of maps where all the documents are in there, etc. Yeah, right now we have the possibility to we say, well, give them to us, and we will help you to make those available in a full digital way.
And with your Excel reader, does that use machine learning as well to do the mappings and interpret an Excel document so they don't have to change the Excel? You use your machine learning to interpret the Excel?
Yeah, what you see most of the time is like everybody. Well, let's say 90% has all the same columns, just in a different order.
Mm.
That's, let's say, a little bit more easy to create.
Yeah.
The most way you see that is that a lot of data is just not available in the Excel model. So you have like so we can pretty easy manage to create a right format to import this into the system. But there, the most problem that you see is that 70% of the data, if it's already 70%, we have also seen 40% of the data is complete.
Mm.
And that's, of course, a different story. So I think it's important to understand that if you want to go from, I think everybody has to go from to a digital system. You have to.
Mm.
It's just a process, and it's not something that you will do in a day, because most of the time you have to start completing the data. Of course, I would say let's start at least from today on to create data. Let's start by that. But all the old data, yeah, you have to make it complete. And there is no
Mm.
company who say, okay, I'm going to lock myself up for 4 weeks and complete
Yeah.
all the fields. That's not going to happen. So it's, you have to take it also along the way and see, okay, now I have to do something with this contract or lease agreement or whatsoever, and then I add all the missing fields to complete it. It's a process. It will take, well, a longer period of time. Of course, it's all depends how the status of the data availability is in the company.
And I presume, but because neither of these machine learning can be 100% perfect in that way, there's still that, to use the phrase, that human in the loop, that supervision to look at what's missing and to validate the data, presumably, as it goes into the pass.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing, because if you look at it from an owner perspective, if you have all the data available, you can send, let's say, the rental directly also to the valuer. And it's also what you see now. The valuer gets a lot of information in PDF or Excel
Mm.
that's already incomplete. So, but now there's the possibility that also the valuer can say, okay, I have the possibility to complete all the data in already decayed system, and I can send the complete data, validated data, back to the owner into his property pass. So then he knows it's been validated and completed by the valuer. And I think this is also a very big commercial opportunity for the valuer, because he can help the owner in this whole
Mm.
digital world, because an owner doesn't want to do it. He wants to see, of course, he wants to make the best decisions for his real estate. But now the valuer can help him with this process.
And I presume it's fairly critical that, having moved to a kind of standard XBRL format, that actually it is important that you have a standard destination for this data, not only to put it all in the same format, but to almost understand what's missing. You need that data standardization for both the destination of all this clever machine learning and to understand what you're missing in terms of the key data points, presumably.
Yeah, well, you can you can imagine that. well, in the Netherlands, we use the XBRL files at the moment. We see if the other countries, they're not using XBRL, or they are just having direct connection in a different way. So you can imagine that we became experts in mapping from system A to system B. And that's, of course, this is a main part of what we have been doing the last couple of years. And this is, I do think that will also be a part of our business in the next couple of years, because there's not one system is going to be the main system.
Exactly.
And different kind of data structures. So you know everything about data structures, Andrew. So we see, okay, you have, and this is how we can connect different, let's say, that's why it's so flexible. So we can work with a UK data standard, but also with a German data standard. And if you have different kind of fields, it's still possible to connect.
Yeah.
And that's and that's so we have the machine learning based on the agreements, but still possible to connect this to different kind of systems.
Indeed.
And that's why that's why it's working.
Indeed. And you mentioned that sort of connectivity of different systems, and clearly you're working within a fairly controlled sort of ecosystem of market participants. But how have you addressed the issues of sort of governance and sharing and making sure the data flows around in that kind of controlled way? Because obviously you've got valuers, banks, the asset owners. You obviously need to be mindful of how the data flows around, not just technically, but from that kind of confidentiality perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, it's everything in our ecosystem. Everybody has to approve when they share data, of course. So it's you are always in control of which data you share. So in this case, if we talk about a particular valuation case, the valuer asks the owner who's using Property Pass, I want to receive this data, this rent roll from this property. Then the owner can say, okay, yes, I agree. And then you have also the whole audit trail, what is being shared with to each other. So you can always see who has received or who has sent some information to you at any point. But of course, this is so you're always in control of your own data. And then if we talk about things like this, you see a lot of talking about people going to talk about blockchain really fast. But then again, we are working with a lot of companies who still have a Word and Excel based company. Let's say let's call it. So we have to take a couple steps. So right now we're not talking about anything of blockchain at the moment. I think it's too early. I think it's interesting, but it's not where the market is right now. So in this case, it's just possible to create a full digital PDF-less system. And if you talk about sharing data to banks, in the Netherlands right now, you have the SBR Nexus between it. So there is like an extra gateway. So we send it and it gets approved before it's going into the bank. So you have all kind of gateways, and everything is based on roles and permissions, and everything is with an audit trail, and you can select this is the data that I would like to send, and this is the data I don't want to send. So we can talk about, and it's already about valuations, lease agreements, sustainability. So all those kind of things are different kind of data sets. You have the possibility to share with each other.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned sustainability, because I think that will be an area where I think people will perhaps have to share data more than they have in the past, to address, I think, people's understandable desire to understand how assets are performing, and also share data between asset owners and occupiers of properties. I think that'll be an interesting area. So I guess in conclusion, what would be your sort of your advice to a firm that wants to embark on this journey? They're in this world of PDFs and Word documents, and lots, I guess even internally, lots of different Excel documents that probably have different formats as well. What would be, to take that single step on what is quite a long journey, what would be your words of advice?
Start creating data today. And I think that's the important part. When we see, when I've been talking to big valuation companies all over Europe, even also on the global level, And you see they have a lot of, let's say, different areas where they create a part of the process where they create the data, but it's not talking, it's not aligned with any other countries, or and that's a difficult part. So I think it's very important that you uh, every data that you have to create a data warehouse or whatsoever. You have to get control about your data. Mapping and connectivity will be the key in the future. And this is also what we are doing. We have three companies right now. They are all standalone companies, but they can talk to each other. And this is actually create a practical case that can be used in any country, in any situation. We are also now connecting with our biggest competitor, and that's okay, because it has to be an open ecosystem. Like the old fashioned way that you want to create a login, I don't believe in it, because everybody, the thing is connectivity. And this is how we are getting all different kind of sources connected to it. And if you are still working with Word and Excel, then the whole world around you will be in a digital way, except your own process. And that's so now that we can send, for example, a rent roll directly into the valuation, it helps a lot. But you can imagine you have to, because your system is not up to it, you have to create an Excel file to put it in your own process. Well, this is not that will not work for the future. But I think you just have to, the most important is that you have a good strategy. It doesn't matter if you're a small company or a big company. Of course, big companies have a little bit more issues it's a much bigger project, but also start small. If we talk with the big companies in Europe, if you talk about digitalization, we start by talking about this subject and we end by talking about this subject, and then nobody knows where to start anymore.
Yeah.
Make it very easy. Make it easy to create it in your own process, and data sharing is the next step. That's fine, but make it step by step, a good project plan, and start small and end big, I would say.
And I suppose that the irony is, we touched on blockchain a little earlier in this episode, and we don't need sort of bleeding edge technology. We need SQL. We need very established tools just to build good internal structures, don't we? To begin to have those kind of, the opposite of silos, where you can share data internally and have a common format. So it doesn't need to be risky technology in that way, does it?
Exactly. And I think it's also important to understand that your clients are taking next steps. It doesn't matter who your client is, but they are making next step to work in a more digital way. So if you want to align with them also for the future, you have to create the possibility that you can. And if you don't do it because you say, well, it's only an internal process or whatsoever, there will be a moment, and we see it already in the Netherlands, that owners say, well, I want to receive your evaluation in a digital way directly into my system.
Yeah.
How are you going to organize that if you don't take the steps right now? And this is also what I've seen, because a lot of valuation companies, they moved slowly to work into more because we have a good PDF file and our margins are still fine. So why do we need to change? You see here in the Netherlands that the banks at some point said, well, if you don't want to, we're going to demand that you do it. And then everybody all of a sudden have to change, and nobody had any thought about it. And then you're too late.
Yeah.
And this is I think that's still opportunity. What we see in the UK market, in the German market, there are very good the tools available to start today. And you see a lot of companies say, okay, but we want to build it ourselves. That's fine, but that's what I'm already hearing the last 5 years. And and still PDF and Word and Excel is the main focus.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to think in a different way. Start thinking about a different way, but start moving. I would say.
Do it now. Start now.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's been fascinating as ever, Erik, and I look forward to our next session. I'm sure it'll be after the summer break when the autumn's upon us. But enjoy your summer break. Interesting as ever, and look forward to talking again.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm looking forward to it.